Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest ATTA webinar. The chat function is open, so please let us know what part of the world you're joining us from today. We'll wait a few more seconds and then we'll start. We'll just wait for others to join in before we begin. We have Natalie from Zambia.
I don't think the chat is open. Oh, hang on.
It's actually opened, yeah. Natalie from Zambia, thank you for joining us. Rebecca from Nairobi. Hilton from South Africa. Gemma from Far and Wide, thank you for joining us. Lisa from Joburg. It's nice to have you all with us today. As you already know, it is the inaugural edition of our educative webinar series. I would have expected some cheering, but of course you're all muted. But somehow I can tell you're all excited, given the interest we've had in such short notice. So this webinar has been introduced as part of ATTA's ongoing efforts to keep our promise on ensuring your personal development as a member of ATTA. And so today will mark the beginning of a journey where knowledge meets community as we delve into insightful topics curated to enhance your understanding and skills. I hope you're all ready to engage, learn, and connect as we embark on this educational voyage together. I would also like to give a special shout out to our participants who are not yet members of ATTA, but have invested in this enriching learning experience. Thank you for choosing to learn with us. So today, with the travel industry increasingly going digital and technology changing the way we plan and take trips, in today's webinar, we'll be exploring 2024's travel marketing trends and discovering new approaches in digital storytelling, social media, and sustainability messaging. The webinar, as always, will be recorded, so no need to worry if you miss out on anything. A copy of the recording will be distributed shortly after. If you have any questions during the live session, just ensure to pop that into the Q&A box just at the bottom of your screen, and they will be treated after the presentation. Taking us through the lesson today, we have Natalia Rosa, the CEO of Big Ambitions, a specialist travel and tourism communications and marketing organization in tourism and travel. Natalia is also the tourism project lead of the SADC Business Council, the executive chair of the Global Travel Lifestyle Network, and a board member of FEDESA Cape. She holds an MSc in publishing and lives in Cape Town, South Africa. Thank you so much for joining us today, Natalia, and the virtual floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Blessing, and thank you everybody that's on the call today. I see some familiar faces, and it's a shame that we're not in a room together and instead we're online. But greetings, and as Blessing said, I find myself in the Western Cape this afternoon, and it is blisteringly warm. For those of you who are in Cape Town, you will agree. So I've got the fan on, and if it makes too much of a noise, if somebody could just let me know in the chat to switch it off so that I don't disrupt things. And then, yeah, I'll probably overheat, but it is what it is. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to hop into my Death by PowerPoint. And I really want this to be a bit of a marketing masterclass for you guys on some of the key trends that are shaping tourism and travel marketing. So instead of approaching it from the perspective of looking at what other people are talking about from a tourism and travel marketing perspective, I've looked at some of the consumer behavior that we're seeing at the moment, and I've related that back to PR, comms, and marketing, specifically for the travel and tourism industry. So over the next 30 minutes or so, what I'm going to do is explore some of the top trends. There are a whole whack of them. Unfortunately, I don't have time to go through all of them. And give you some practical examples on how you could potentially implement some of it. Some of you may already be implementing these tactics or these themes in your business, or trying to implement them in your business. And I'll provide you with a few practical strategies and examples on how you can do that. So really, at the end of this webinar, it would be great if you walked away feeling a little bit more equipped with some new ideas that you could even just start exploring in your own marketing initiatives. A lot of times people think, okay, well, marketing is a destination, but it really is a journey, and it's about experimenting with things and trying things, and not thinking that, you know, you've got to get things perfect the first time round. So please feel free to share any questions in the Q&A folder at the bottom of your screen. And I'll try and carve some time out at the end of the session to respond to these. We have also received quite a few questions beforehand, and a lot of them have to do with generative AI. So I am going to address that, but not in the greatest depth. We will do a generative AI webinar very shortly. So make sure that you are going to be on that. And as Blessing said, we are recording the session, and we will be issuing you with a masterclass toolkit after the event, so you walk away with something that you can actually use. Okay, so some of the trends that we will be covering today are around mobile-first strategies, purpose-driven campaigns, virtual influencer, or as they now call themselves, content creator collaborations. I know what you're thinking. I rolled my eyes as well, because I hate working with influencers, as a disclaimer, but I have also spoken to a few people who are working very effectively with content creators. And so it's about doing that properly. Crisis communication, which is certainly something that has been on my radar over the last couple of months. AI integration, and shifting more attention to owned media platforms. So those are the platforms that you have control of, not media, as in newspapers and online media. And then lastly, something called strategic lead differentiation. And for each trend, as I said, I'll share a few actionable takeaways on how you can execute on these trends with your own organization. All right, so let's dive into the mobile first strategy, which isn't new at all. And if I think about how much time I've been spending on TikTok at 2 a.m. lately, which is a bit embarrassing because I'm not sleeping, but I am spending a lot of time on TikTok at 2 o'clock in the morning. So if you haven't been thinking about mobile first, where the hell have you been? Just as a side note, I used TikTok in November when I was in Rome as my search engine to give me ideas on what to do while I was in the city. I didn't even touch Google. I went straight to TikTok. And I think a lot of us are very scared about TikTok because we think that we've got to produce these amazing videos, but really raw and unrehearsed is what TikTok is all about. So if you are not using TikTok at the moment, understand that there is a whole generation of people, even my generation, that are looking at TikTok at the moment to find information about travel. So don't miss out on that trend. I've just put a few stats on the screen there for you to see how mobile is so important. And you're going to think, well, why is she talking about mobile first? Because this is something that has been in our lives forever. I mean, when you see stats like 3 hours and 15 minutes daily on your smartphone, and don't you hate it when your phone tells you on Sunday how long you've been spending on it every week? For me, it's much more than 3 hours and 15 minutes. Social media platforms play a crucial role in travel inspiration. Instagram is the top source for Gen Zs, and 69% of the worldwide population are using social media for travel-related needs. And they're using it for their phones, from their phones, like the Rome story that I've just told you. 83% of travelers do their research on the mobile device before finalizing their travel plans. Interestingly, the caveat is in booking, where they switch to desktops. So 64% are still using desktops compared to the 44% on mobile. So there's still comfort in terms of that process on desktop. So you've almost got to understand the traveler's journey and which touch points on which platforms they are wishing to engage on, and making sure that that part of the user journey is as seamless as possible. So desktop is leading in the conversion side of things, but mobile is playing a huge role in that early research, planning, in destination phase. And as I said, given the importance and the significance of mobile and implementing a mobile first strategy, I can't tell you how many companies I have personally worked with that do not prioritize this, even though you might all sit here now and think this is very, very obvious. I have come across websites that are beautiful on desktop, but appallingly bad on mobile, and wouldn't spend more than 5 minutes on those websites if they were on, if I was looking at them on a mobile screen. So again, as I say, think about how your customer interacts with you at what touch point. So how are they engaging with you? And based on the data that you can see from Google Analytics, based on what they tell you, try and understand which platform they are using for each part of the user journey. If they are using mobile for planning and you have a beautiful website with a whole bunch of incredible information that helps with planning, but it is not responsive, it is not mobile friendly, you've lost out. So make sure that you literally map those touch points, put it on a piece of paper and understand what platforms they're going to be using. So how do we achieve this mobile first approach? By creating short form, bite-sized content that's optimized for mobile screens. And I'll pull you back to the TikTok thing and the Instagram reels. We all know that video is where it's at. And we can see it in the statistics. We can see the engagement is much higher on short video content than it is on text, than it is on just flat images. So again, you're going to look at this and say reels are really hard, but I've just told you that with something like TikTok, the more raw and the more real it is, the better it is. Just go onto TikTok and see some of the nonsense that people are posting on an ongoing basis and how their videos are being shared and liked incredibly, even though you might look at it and think, oh, well, that was a bit dumb. We work with a company called Real Stories in Cape Town, REEL Stories in Cape Town. They have not paid me to endorse them. I actually pay them to work with me, and they create the most amazing reels on behalf of some of our travel and tourism clients. They're very affordable, and it is a very special skill. Not everybody can create the most beautiful travel reels, but don't let that stop you from creating a reel. Make sure that you experiment and you play with it a little bit. As I said, looking at your data analytics and understanding that visitor behavior on mobile, when are they using mobile? How can you make sure that the journey of when they're using mobile is frictionless so that they don't jump off, and really tailoring the content and the recommendations based on what content they are engaging with on their mobile phones, and doing more of that and doing less of what doesn't work. As I said, marketing initiatives and travel booking platforms are already often optimized for a mobile platform, but it's not unusual for us to come across businesses that look incredible on desktop, but when you put it on mobile, it just looks absolutely terrible. So the first thing you actually need to do is to double check that your website is fast and responsive and it looks good on mobile, and ask people you know, ask your family, ask your friends to do exactly the same thing and to interact with your website on mobile and on desktop, because we don't see often, we fill in the gaps for ourselves because it's our website. If you get somebody out of the blue that hasn't actually been involved in developing your website for mobile or for desktop, they will often tell you where things need to be fixed, and it is a really easy thing for you to do. It's also very key that you have a responsive website that is fast from a search engine optimization perspective, because you will find that Google will penalize you if your website is too slow or takes too long to load on mobile or desktop. So make sure that the first thing you do when you leave, go and get somebody that's a friend or a family member to go through your website on mobile and desktop and tell you where you are falling over. Okay, another one which you are completely aware of, I'm sure, which is around purpose-driven campaigns. We know that consumers are drawn to brands that align with their beliefs and contribute positively to society. So this idea of purpose-driven communication, and I know a few of you in the room are already doing that really effectively. Hilton, I saw your name there. You guys do a really great job with this. And it's not just about sustainability, it's about regenerative travel initiatives. So leaving a place better off than actually what we found it. So given the increasing importance of this purpose-driven communication that our customers are looking for, it makes sense for you to identify those stories in your marketing efforts that can highlight your commitment to sustainability and to positive community impact. And as I said, it's unlikely that your business is would find this difficult because many of the values that you have as tourism and travel businesses are probably already very well aligned with sustainability. So just a couple of examples of who's doing it right. You guys are all aware of Patagonia, and their marketing is very heavily emphasizing environmental activism and sustainability. They donate a portion of their sales to environmental causes. They encourage sustainable consumer habits. And it's central to their ethos, to their DNA, and that then carries through to their marketing efforts. So it's very predictably, you know that it's Patagonia, basically. G Adventures, another example in travel, also focusing on sustainable tourism and social enterprise. They talk about this drip effect where you throw a pebble in and you've got this kind of effect that moves out from it. They talk a lot about that in their marketing. And they collaborate with local businesses a lot and promote those local businesses and the cultural exchanges that they offer on their tours, which is obviously a unique experience for travelers. So these companies have very effectively taken their DNA and integrated into these purpose-driven messages in their marketing, not being boastful about it, but almost turning it on its head and talking about how it will benefit the consumer. So the consumer's life will be enriched, or the local community's life will be enriched. So it's not so much about me, rah, 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 but more about how you can make a place or a person or the environment that you're in as a traveler better than when you found it before. So just flipping that messaging away from yourself and really looking at it from the perspective of your audience and from the communities that are benefiting from the travel that your audience is doing is the right way to resonate with travelers who are looking for those meaningful, responsible, and regenerative travel experiences. I hope you guys are all still with me and not asleep. I know that it is 4 o'clock here in South Africa. Right, so the next one is around implementing these purpose-driven travel campaigns. And if you are looking to execute something like this, there are some strategies that you can potentially look at. Remember, we are recording this webinar, so you can always listen back to it and just start the paint by numbers and do the activities. So the first one is by clearly identifying what your sustainability values and your goals are. So if I were to get stuck in a lift with you and you had 20 seconds to tell me what you were doing from a sustainability perspective, what would those 3, 4 things be? It could be around carbon reduction. It could be around wildlife conservation. It could be around supporting local artisans or enhancing cultural traditions. It could be a myriad of different things, but really understand what it is that you are doing and what those sustainability values are and be authentic about it. If you're not doing things, then don't talk about it, because as we know, that's greenwashing and people are going to sniff through that very quickly. It's great to identify the audience that you want to speak to around those values, the audience that is interested in those values. And it's also great then to research and identify partners that are non-competitive to you, but that speak to that audience, so that between the two of you, you can align and you can then communicate with your with the audience that you've identified. You don't have to find a partner. Sometimes you have your own audience that you can leverage, but if you're starting from scratch and you don't have an audience, it's much easier for you to find someone who shares your values and to piggyback off the audience that they have, and for them to kind of co-brand with you because of what you are doing. So you both benefit. And once you've done that, is then understanding what is the content that spotlights those initiatives and the positive impacts they create. So remember, it's not about you. You're flipping it to talk about the positive impact on the people, your audience, so the people who are going to travel with you, and the people and the places that they will touch when they travel. So less about you, more about them. That's more authentic. So think about how you can tell that story in a way that's not boastful. And what I find really effective in this space is kind of going behind the scenes and telling the story, warts and all, of what you're doing. So if you've made mistakes, talk about those mistakes. If something flopped, talk about the flop and how you've changed it to make it better. Be real. Again, the example of Patagonia, they have documentary films that showcase the environmental issues. And again, it's not about them, it's about conservation. So they really managed to blend storytelling with this idea of advocacy. G Adventures, I know because I spent quite a bit of time with G Adventures, do the most amazing local community stories. So they've tied up with this taxi organization that's run by women in India, in Delhi. And they tell the story of these women in Delhi who are driving taxis in chaotic Delhi traffic. It's not about them. The Delhi taxi drivers are the story, essentially, and they're just the conduit or the bridge to these brave Delhi taxi ladies. They also have a foundation, and you can talk a little bit about your foundation and the social enterprise projects that you do, potentially the partnership benefits to local communities, if that's what you're working with. So I will just leave you with this point around measuring things. It's difficult for you to report on successes unless you are measuring what you're doing. And again, many of you will be familiar with Weaver and the good work that they're doing to measure sustainability efforts. So if you're not measuring your sustainability and you don't have a proper sustainability strategy, I would be very careful of going into this purpose-driven campaign space because, as I said, consumers will sniff it a mile away and you'll just get into trouble. Okay, content creator or influencers, virtual influencers, they're relatable and they're authentic. Their appeal lies in their perceived genuineness. They form partnerships and they are engaging with their audiences much more than media is. So we are seeing a significant shift, particularly towards micro and nano influencers. These individuals are valued by the audience because they have a very niche focus. So they specialize in family travel for families that have children under the age of 10, for example. I mean, it's like that niche. And when you get that niche, it starts becoming a lot easier for you to tell a story and for you to be recognized as the storyteller in that specific niche space. So I have, as I said earlier, always been put off by influencers, but I have had many conversations with brands that are working and partnering with content creators that are very nichely focused and then doing the fulfillment of that travel on behalf of the content creator. So the content creator almost gets a little bit of a commission based on the referrals to you. So there's like a real ROI. It's not like media where you put an advert in or you put an article in and you think, okay, well, will anyone see this and react to it? With the content creators, if you do a proper partnership with them and a proper collaboration with them, you will find not only is the audience demographic a match for you, that it's easier for you to come up with content and for them to come up with content that really matches a specific need, but you will actually see ROI from it because they will bring you leads that you can then convert. So don't be afraid of using content creators, but make sure that you are finding content creators that share your values, are a match for what it is that you want to niche into. Doesn't work if you want to be general. You've got to be very clear on what your specific niche is. Okay, next up we talk about crisis communications. This has certainly been my life in the last 2 to 3 months. And we know that travelers look at brands when things are uncertain for some level of accuracy, some level of proactiveness. They're expecting transparency, especially when their plans are likely to be disrupted. So it really is key to deal with crisis communications and reputation management proactively instead of waiting for something to happen. And then you start getting a whole bunch of questions from your clients as to what's going on, et cetera, et cetera. And we know it's an election here in South Africa. There's elections in the US. There are geopolitical conflicts that are ongoing at the moment. There are economic constraints that are limiting people's ability to travel. And just as a practical example, South Africa's stance on Israel and the recent court proceedings in The Hague in the Netherlands, that is something that has caused concern amongst certain tour operators and DMC's clients. And clients are asking about this and asking whether it's safe to visit South Africa as a result of South Africa having this very visible stance on Israel. So we need as brands to respond to that in a transparent and empathetic way. And because everything is so unpredictable at the moment, being communicative is even more important from a proactive perspective. So issuing something to your clients and saying, like we did last week, this is the situation in South Africa in terms of Israel. Feel free to share this with your clients. You should be thinking about those things that are likely to keep them up at night and have a response ready to send to them so that they know that you're on it and that you care about their safety and you care about their ability to travel. So remember that if you are not proactive about your brand communications during a crisis, what it does is it has an impact on you from a reputation perspective, and it also has an impact on your customer loyalty. So, and we will also do a crisis communications webinar at a certain point, because we, as I say, have had to do a lot of crisis comms in the last couple of months. I'm just going to give you some really quick tips on what to do, and we can give you a template when we do that webinar on how you can develop a crisis comms plan. And I know you're all sitting there and thinking, well, crisis comms, that's not my wheelhouse and that's not what I need to do. But everyone needs to have a crisis comms plan. You need to be prepared, and it doesn't need to be a plan that's 50 pages long. It can be a 3-page plan. And what it should do is it should outline some of the potential crises that could happen. It should have contact lists for people who would be involved in dealing with that crisis, so that you're not on the back foot and scrambling to find people. And you should know which communication channels you are going to use in a crisis. So are you going to shut down social media? Are you going to use media? Have you got a newsletter database that you're going to send information out? That can all be pre-planned. And when that crisis hits, you need to be super, super quick, because the rumor mill runs rife. And then if there is an information gap, people fill the information gap with speculation. So it causes even more of an issue. Even if the full details are not available, you can still acknowledge the fact that something has happened, put a little doorstop in it, and then bide your time to find the right response to send to people. You've got to respond, and you've got to respond honestly and accurately, and in a very transparent way, so that you avoid that speculation. And the more you communicate, the better, because then people don't feel like they need to get that rumor mill going. So if you're not leaning in and talking about things, then misinformation just spreads really quickly. So you've got to try and make sure that you fill that gap so that doesn't happen. Always show empathy and understanding. So the first thing you always do is to express your regret, or acknowledge the fact that someone would be concerned about it. Never dismiss it, but don't accept responsibility unless you are 100% clear that you need to accept responsibility. Showing that empathy really humanizes you, and it shows that you're committed to resolving whatever it is that has happened. And then as the situation evolves, your crisis comms response is going to change. You're going to see that there are fewer comments on social media, so you won't need to respond to each one. You can try and take the conversation offline. You might find that media have lost interest, and at the moment, their news cycle is so quick that they lose interest generally around 24 hours. So you don't need to constantly bombard media with lots of different responses, and you don't need to respond to every media question. You can literally just respond to the media questions with one statement that you have prepared, because the longer you feed the fire, the longer the crisis goes on. So at a certain point, you do need to you've responded, stop responding, close things down, and start rebuilding reputation. Yeah, it can help you mitigate the damage to your brand, but you don't want to respond to every single question that you get from media, because what happens is that they have their own angle in their mind, and by responding to every question they have, you are helping them write the article. So don't feel like you ever need to do that. Okay, the holy grail that everybody is interested in, and that's around AI integration. It's not a buzzword. It's a game changer in how we approach business efficiency, customer experience, and marketing, and it has made an incredible difference in my life. It has probably amplified me by a third at least. So if you can think of another third, Natalia, that's how much AI has amplified me. So what is AI? It's not here to replace anyone. It's about automating the tedious, repetitive tasks and boosting your productivity in that way. So that could be anything from sorting customer queries. It could be analyzing data. It could be writing templates for your consultants to use. It could be for research and ideation. It could be for translation. It could be for transcription. And I'll talk a little bit about how I've implemented in my business. And a lot of people have kicked and screamed against it, particularly the writers, because it is scary to think that there is something potentially better than you at doing something that is very specifically your day-to-day job. So the automation and the ability to use it for very quick content, translation, transcription, analyzing data. It is absolutely incredible at analyzing data and trends and doing research. If you are afraid of it, if you are hiding from it, know that it is as stupid as it's ever going to be. So as we sit here right now, AI is as rudimentary and crude as it's ever going to be. It is only going to get better, and it will only get better to the point where it will replace some of what you do. And you then need to make sure that now you understand what are those areas that you are doing as a human that could be replaced by AI tools, so that you can then be freed up to do higher value work, which is more strategic and more creative, because that's firstly what we're more interested in doing, right? And that is also what's going to set you apart. So I'm going to talk about some of the areas that we use AI for in my business and on behalf of travel companies. So around content creation, you will all have played around with ChatGPT. Some of you will still be on ChatGPT 3.5. Some of you will be on 4. 3.5 is like a kid that's just come out of school and knows everything there is to know about the internet, but has absolutely no idea on how to actually use it. So if you are not on version 4, which costs $20 a month, and believe me, $20 is nothing for what you get out of ChatGPT 4, please do yourself a favor and upgrade your ChatGPT. The devil is in the prompting, and I can't go through prompting today. Unfortunately, we don't have time, but I will give you a toolkit on AI, and I will also do a session on AI that will teach you how to prompt properly. So keep an eye out for that. So content creation, I use ChatGPT. I also use something called Claude, C-L-A-U-D-E. I think I have a personal relationship with Claude. We talk to each other. And those two really are the two biggies for text content creation. For image content creation, ChatGPT has something in its version 4, which is called DALL-E. Bit hit and miss. Sometimes you get rubbish. And then there is something really good called Mid-Journey, which I will show you when we do our AI tutorial. And that is a little bit more complicated, but the quality is absolutely exceptional. You can also, if you're doing videos, use things like tools like InVideo to help you generate videos in minutes. There are so many different types of AI tools that you can use in content creation and fixing content, editing it, making it flow better, removing spelling and grammatical errors, translating it. But if you're not going to use anything else, just use the two, ChatGPT and Claude, for content creation. Okay. Data-driven, so any like understanding data so that you can personalize things. Your go-to is ChatGPT. It is incredible at reading Excel spreadsheets. So if you downloaded an Excel spreadsheet, you can ask it to interrogate data from the Excel spreadsheet, ask it a question, and it will deliver the response. It can clean up Excel spreadsheets for you. If you've got duplicates, it can remove the duplicates. If you run a survey, it can tell you everything you need to know about what the results are in that survey. So ChatGPT is your go-to for anything that's Excel spreadsheet related. There are lots of little AI bots and tools that you can download, some for free. They have a freemium version. You've got to pay for them a little bit. That also provides some assistance. One that I use is called Monica. She sits on my Google Chrome, and at any stage, if I'm on the web and doing something, I can just click Monica's little face, pop up, and then say, tell her, translate this for me, or find this information on this page for me, or analyze the page and tell me what it's about, or summarize this white paper for me because I don't have time to read it. So these little bots are very good at helping you with productivity. And then for translation, ChatGPT all the way, amazing for translation. And for transcription, something called DeepGram, D-E-E-P-G-R-A-M, DeepGram. DeepGram is the most incredible transcription software I've ever used. I take the transcript, I put it into ChatGPT, and I ask it to create minutes, or I ask it to summarize the transcription, or I ask it to pull out the actionable points, or I ask it to write an email based on the transcription. So using the tools together is a really good idea because they work very well together. How can you use AI to revolutionize your day-to-day operation? Well, firstly, it's about taking a piece of paper or an Excel spreadsheet and identifying what you do or what your team does every single day. And remember that a task is not just writing is not just writing. To write something, you have to understand the angle that you're going with. You have to do the research. You have to speak to people. You have to finalize the angle that you want to go on. You have to finalize what you want that piece to look like. You only then start writing, and then you have to edit it. All of that front loading and the back loading is what a human being does. The writing, Claude does a better job at writing than you do, trust me. So if you're spending all your time on writing, you're missing a trick. And all of your tasks are going to be like that. So if you had to write down every single thing you do from a day-to-day perspective, identify what those subtasks are, and then think, can part of this task or all of this task be assisted through artificial intelligence tool? Map it out on a spreadsheet and then start playing with one or two. Don't overwhelm yourself by trying to do everything. Just start playing with one or two and start training your staff to do the same thing. So we, on a weekly basis, have a training session for our staff where we teach them another thing around artificial intelligence. So it starts becoming embedded in your company culture. So starting small, not threatening by giving one or two things to your staff to do, regularly playing around with things, and knowing that it's a journey, that there's nothing wrong. There's nothing that says what you've done is wrong. So make sure that you are channeling your 6-year-old self and literally coloring in outside the lines, because this is all about playing, basically. Don't forget to play. The last thing I'm going to go through, because I'm going to go through 2 more things because we're running out of time, is around earned media. And a lot of you guys are fixated when it comes to media. I must have coverage in the Times. I must have coverage in the Daily Telegraph. I don't know how many of you actually still read those publications, and I can tell you your children probably don't. So there's been this incredible reliance on earned media. So earned media is newspapers, online websites with news, etc. And what we're seeing at the moment is a shift from earned media and this reliance on what we call advertising value equivalence. So how much would I have paid to put an advert in that newspaper or an advert online, to owned media, which allows you to have control over the messaging and audience. So you literally become a publisher. And that means for you to go into the space of owned medias, you need to start building your owned media assets. So your website, your blog, your social media channels, your newsletters, how you engage in your platforms with your customers and build your audience. Because tomorrow, a newspaper or a magazine that has your content on it could close, and we've seen this, and all of your information will go with it. There is no loyalty. So you really need to start thinking about your own platforms and how you can start building up your own platforms to deliver the long-term loyalty that you want with your customers. It also is much better at allowing you to measure the return on investment than a media article is. And you can leverage that information to personalize your content even more. So before you are fixated about having an article in media, think about what you're doing on your own website, on your own channels to build your own media. Invest in blogs, invest in your social media. Make sure that the messaging and the content is different for each channel. Don't use the same content on Facebook and Instagram. Differentiate it. Your blog shouldn't be a carbon copy of a media article. You need to really think about your content, because you're trying to build a relationship. Remember, you are a publisher. And the last point is around strategic lead differentiation. You all are in a space at the moment, I'm sure, where you have a lot of work, too much work. We've had a lot of people leave the tourism industry. We are all very short on time. We cannot find staff. And yet we are carrying on as if we were in a feast, as if we had loads of people to process leads. The reality is, for most of us, we have more leads than we can process. And I don't know why we are not spending time trying to categorize the marketing inquiry that comes in and dealing with marketing inquiries differently based on the value that it's going to bring your business. So if you've got a list of things that you're going through and you treat each task as exactly the same urgency or importance, of course you're not going to move forward. And if you do the same with your leads, if you're not categorizing them A, B, C into a tier system, and then coming up with a communication for each of those tiers, A leads that are higher likely to convert, they might get more of a personalized service. They might have an agent that's helping them. B leads, still a bit promising, nurture them through an automated email drip or social media ads, or find or newsletters or whatever to keep them hot, but you can't deal with them immediately. And the C leads, those are minimal. So you don't want to put a lot of high touch into that. You want to just do a little bit of drip. So you might do a newsletter once a month, for example, once every 2 months. So really thinking about your inquiries from a strategic perspective, as opposed to chasing your tail and seeing all of those leads as high value opportunities, because they're not high value opportunities. In the funnel, the C ones are at the top and they haven't made any decision to travel, and the A ones are at the bottom and they're closer to converting. So if you're short on time and you're short on resources, focus your attention and your staff's attention on those highest value leads. So I'm going to stop now because I have talked a lot. A bit of a hyperspeed masterclass in PR comms and marketing, and I'm sure many of these trends you guys are aware of, and I know you're all interested in AI, and we will do an AI webinar soon, so that you can get some tools to use it, because it's not as complicated as people think. So I'll stop there, and I will
Thank you
take
so much.
questions.
Thank you so much, Natalia. Thank you so much. That was a beautiful presentation. Really, really insightful and educative. We'll just go through the questions quickly because of time. The first one, how do we start including predictive and generative AI into our communication and marketing mix? Where does one start, and what programs are available for us to consider employing? This is more than just ChatGPT.
Okay, so stop thinking about the tools and start thinking about the use cases. So as I mentioned to you earlier, get a spreadsheet for a week, and everything you do in column A, outline what you do. Task, subtask. So if you check emails, write check emails. If you write social media posts, tell me how. Do you have a content calendar? Do you do research? What are the subtasks that are required to execute the social media task? That's column A. Then column B, you start looking at what potentially in those tasks are things that AI could assist you with. Is it content creation? Okay, great. Now you start thinking about the tool. So ChatGPT 4 is a great tool for content creation if you prompt it properly, but Claude, C-L-A-U-D-E, Claude is a much better writer than ChatGPT is. So if I'm writing content, I'm going to go to Claude and I'm going to go to ChatGPT and I'm going to look at both of them, and then I'm going to pull the one that's the best. So start with your spreadsheet, and once you know what it is that you're doing, then you choose the tool that'll help you achieve that. Your tech stack will probably not have more than 4 or 5 AI tools. DeepGram to transcription, ChatGPT to do translation and content, Claude to do content, ChatGPT to do data analysis and anything to do with a spreadsheet. And then maybe an AI bot like a Monica to help you with productivity, or Perplexity AI. I'll put it in, I can't put it in the chat because you won't see it's host and panelist, but Perplexity. Perplexity.ai is amazing for research. So those are the tools that I use. I don't bother with anything else. Next question.
Thank you. Next question. What do you think is the best way to market community-based tourism to a luxury audience?
So that feeds into the purpose-driven stuff that I was talking about a little bit earlier, right? And that is all about understanding your values and how they align with your audiences, and then telling that story from an authentic way, as in flipping it. So it's about them and the community as opposed to you. So I always talk about flipping, because a lot of brands say, well, I want to tell people this. And I always say, well, people don't care. They don't care that you're doing this amazing community-driven work, but they'll care if it impacts them, and they'll care if it impacts the community. So always ask yourself, what is the story that I can tell that will showcase that community, or that will showcase how the audience can help that community, as opposed to what it is that I want to say. So that's kind of very briefly where we are with that. Next question.
Super. What, in your opinion, will be the impact of AI in sales and marketing in hospitality and tourism industry?
Massive. I think it's going to, and is already fundamentally changing how we do sales and marketing. And if you're hiding under your bed eating Kit Kats and hoping it's going to go away, I'd suggest you come out and play, because it really is fundamentally changing how we do marketing and communications and sales. And if you do not get on the bandwagon now, you're going to be left behind, and many of your tasks are going to become redundant tasks. So don't fall asleep at the wheel.
Thank you. Last one. What are the key travel trends you're seeing for 2024? And how can we, as the travel industry, use AI and ChatGPT to our benefit? I think it just borders around what we've been saying.
Cool. Yeah, so many of them you guys already know. I mean, the one is around leisure and workation. That's an obvious one. Automation through AI is another trend we're seeing. Mobile first, you guys know about. Hyper-personalization, so consumers requiring that niche approach that I was talking about with content creators and not wanting to be part of the masses. Transformative journeys that make me a better person, make me a better human, allow me to give back more. And great that we are on a continent where we can provide this so beautifully. Wellness tourism, you guys know, is big. Extended holidays. So, I mean, I was speaking to a tour operator the day before yesterday, and she was talking about 7-week trips that some people are taking at the moment. So this idea of taking an extended break or an extended holiday because you can basically travel and work. We're very worried about the staffing situation in the tourism industry. I think that has a massive impact. It might not be a travel trend, but it has a massive impact on our operations, which is why I'm pleading to you guys to get into the AI game so you can try and free yourself up a little bit, and also to be more strategic about the sales leads you go after, so that you're not chasing your tail. Yeah, I've spoken about some of the trends already, like the global dynamics and how that's influencing people. So that kind of gives you a fair idea of what's going on.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Natalia. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It's always lovely to have you all tune into our webinars. And like we mentioned earlier, this is just the first of so many to come. Just be on the lookout for ATTA emails. The subsequent edition of this series will be communicated. We should have this every second month, but hopefully we are able to convince Natalia to do this every month. Seeing the engagements from the audience.
I do want to just respond to Eliza's question. She's asked, what if I'm the community-based tourism project? Happy day, Eliza, then you can vote all you want.
Okay. I just saw that.
So feel free to tell people your story and really think about how you can tell the background, you know, because you want people to see the polished version of what it is that you do, but talk about it from the perspective of learnings, you know, what you've learned, where you've fallen over. Do a few reels, do a few videos of, you know, like the backstory of what's happening behind the scenes. People want to feel a little bit like they are voyeurs into your life. So don't be afraid of sharing that aspect of your environment. And yeah, please send it to me. I'd love to see what you guys are doing. But look, my mission is to get you people on AI and to get you using AI properly so we can free you up. So we'll do our next webinar on AI, and maybe we'll try and do it in Feb, Blessing, so we can get it.
Sounds good. Sounds
Cool.
good. I'll be in comms with you. All right, then. With that, we've come to the end of this webinar. And like we mentioned earlier, a recording of the webinar will be sent out with the toolkit. So just be on the lookout for ATTA emails, and have a lovely day, everyone.
Cheers, guys. Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.